Hi everyone, welcome to the third live stream for the Python series. इससे पहले हम दो classes कर चुके हैं. We've already done two live streams before this where we have done how to make a very basic simple program in Python, and we have done how to calculate with different operators and check conditions, right? So in this now we are going to do conditions with a bit of more complexity, and we would be doing nesting of if else like yesterday we did. How can we use simple if statement, that is independent if statement, and we did what is the purpose of if else, and we did the elif ladder. I hope you all are clear with the concept of those basic ways we write if. And what about you, Deepak? Did you practice the questions with if else?
Yeah, so after that, we did it for discount, staggered discount amount for various bill amounts. And yes, it is very clear when we use if and when we use if else and elif statement as well, and what are the distinctions between each of the statements. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's really nice that you're clear with the basics of if. So now we're going to start with another way of writing if, that is called nesting of if. Now what do we exactly mean by nesting of if else in Python or in any other programming language? So when we talk about nesting, that means keeping one if inside another if. Usually we have conditions, and if you have conditions in this form, that one condition needs to be checked only if some other condition is true. There you need to have nesting. For example, I want to check whether a person can vote for India or not, right? Now to vote for India, I want to check first of all that the person should be an Indian. And if the person is an Indian, then the age should be greater than equal to 18. Then we can say that the person is eligible to vote. Otherwise, he's not eligible to vote. So if I want to make such a program, how would we do that? Then I'll show you how to use nesting of if else. So let's say I have to create a file named voting, right? So what I do is I have to take the nationality of a person. So I read the nationality, I write input, enter your nationality, and then I need an if over here to check if the person is an Indian. So I'm going to write if nationality is equal to Indian. If this condition is true, I should ask for the age now. So I should ask for the age, and I write here age is equal to, since age would be an integer, so we can use int over here, and we can ask like enter your age, and then I'm putting another if. So this kind of combination, when you have one if after the indentation of another if, so this if is part of the outer if. If the first if is false, then we will never reach to the second one. If the first one is true, then only you reach to the second one. And here we check like if age is greater than equal to 18, we can print that okay, you can enter the name also if you want to make the thing look better. So you are eligible to get a voter card, right? Else, now this else, the one else which comes first is not of the outer one, is of the inner one. So this else belongs to this if. So else, this else means that the person is an Indian, but the age is not greater than equal to 18. So in this case, we would be printing that you are, or you can say sorry, you are underage, like this. So we can say sorry, you are underage, and then I'll go back and I'll go back again, and I'm going to have another else, and this else belongs to the upper if, right? So this indent also helps you to find out that which else is with which if. So these two are aligned, that means this is one block, and this else is aligned with this if, means this is related with this one. So in this case, we can just write sorry.
They're not Indian.
Yeah, so you have to be Indian to vote, right? Something like this. So if I run this program now, I go to run and then I select run and I select my program, which is voting. It asks me enter the nationality. I enter Indian. Then it asks me for
Is
the
this-
age.
Is this Indian? Is this text specific? If you
Yeah.
write small I and then
It is case sensitive.
case sensitive.
Yeah. So it is case sensitive. We can deal with that. Like we can compare it, or we can do one thing that before comparison, change your string to all capitals, so that internally
Okay.
it does it like that. I'll show you how. So if I enter 17, it says sorry, you are underage, right? So it says you are underage and it won't work. If I run it again, and let's say if I enter something else, like I enter Australian, right? So it says you in the very first time that sorry, you have to be Indian to vote. So it will not go and check the condition for age because the outer condition is false. So if the outer is false, we never reach to the inner condition. But if all the conditions are matching, like I have this as Indian and the age is also greater than 18, so you get this message, you are eligible to get a voter card, right? So that is nesting of if else. So that is one particular thing. Another common example I can show you using this is to find greatest of three numbers. Now greatest of three numbers is such a program which we can use to compare different type of ifs. So if I have to compare all type of ifs, I can write this program greatest of three numbers with all type of ifs except if else, because we have more than two results. So I can do it with independent if statement, I can do it with elif, and I can do it with nested if else. And I'll show you the comparison between all. So are you clear with this one? Okay, and are you all clear with this one who are watching through YouTube? Anyone has a doubt in this? Right. Okay, so we'll go for the greatest of three numbers. So we go for new and I create another Python file and I write the name as greatest 3. Now first of all, you need to take the numbers, obviously. You have to input the numbers. So I'm going to take them in N1, N2 and N3. So I take like int, input, enter first number, and similar way I have to get the other two. So enter second number, enter third number. So we have N1, N2, N3, and then now what are the different ways? The first one is I check if N1 is greater than N2 and N1 is greater than N3. So if N1 is greater than N2 and N1 is greater than N3, if this is the thing, then we would say that N1 is greatest, right? Similar way, I can have independent if for the other two, like this. So if N2 is greater than N3 and N2 is greater than N1, so in that case N2 will be the greatest number. And then in the last one I'll check if N3 greater than N2 and N3 greater than N1, then your N3 is greatest, right? So this is a very simple code, like you are just checking. If we are checking N1 is greater than N2 and N3, so N1 is greatest, And same way you're checking for N2 and you're checking for N3. Can you tell me how many conditions the computer has to check to get a result in this code? In Python, we can't input 3 values in same line. So if you want to take 3 values, you have to write it in 3 different lines. So there is no way that you can input all of the 3 together. So you have to input one by one. Yeah, can you tell me how many conditions it's going to check?
So for one if it is checking 2 conditions. So there are 3 if. So 2 raised to the power of 3, which is 8.
Not exactly. There are 6 conditions being checked. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 conditions, and we have and in between. So even if your first one is true, even if I get N1 as the highest, still it's going to check rest of the conditions. So in total, it will always check 6 conditions, irrespective of the thing that which condition is true. So I enter some numbers here, and it tells me the greatest out of that, right? So I need to save that. Why should it check the condition for 6 times? When I know that my first number is greater, I should not check for the other 2. So there we get our elif. So we change it to elif, yeah. And the last one can be replaced with a else. Now here, minimum 2 conditions will be checked and maximum 4. So in case we get the true result in the very first chance, just 2 conditions are checked. In case you get false and the next 2 are checked, so that would be either true or false. If it's true, N2 will be printed. If it's false, N3 will be printed. So we are checking only 4 conditions in this. So we saved some time and effort of the processor. So instead of checking 6 conditions, it's checking 4 now, right? Now, nesting of if-else will rather save this. There we will be checking only 2 conditions and we'll get the result. How? I'll show you. Before we move on to that, let's execute this and see if it's giving the proper answer. So if you run this and you enter some values, you still get the greatest. Okay. Now, nesting of if-else, how does that work? I'm going to check if N1 is greater than N2. If it is true, then only I should check if N1 is greater than N3. If that is also true, that means my N1 is greatest. So I should print that N1 is greatest. But what if the second condition, that is N1 greater than N3, becomes false? What should happen?
N3 is the greatest.
Good. So N3 should be the greatest because here we already know that N1 is greater than N2. Now out of N1, N3, whichever is greater would be the greatest. So we can print over here that N3 is greatest. So to get any of these 2 results, we just checked 2 conditions, right? Now I'm going to have else, and this else is of which if? The outer one. Now in case this condition becomes false, that is quite obvious that the reverse is true. If N1 is not greater than N2, that means N2 is greater than N1. So in that case, I need to check if N2 is greater than N3 as well. If it is, I should print N2 is greatest, else it should be moved ahead here, N3 is greatest. So with this code, again we're going to get the same output, but this code will check maximum of 2 conditions only. Either my first one and second one will be true, so I'll get N1 is greatest. If my first one is true, second is false, I'll get N3 is greatest. If my first is false and the third condition is true, it is N2 is greatest. If your first is false and third is also false, you get N3 is greatest. So out of this N1 greater than N3 or N2 greater than N3, only one will be checked. And this will be checked for sure. So we are checking only 2 conditions. Now, as a programmer, when you have to write a program, there is no hard and fast rule that which type of if you should use. So it's totally up to you. Whichever you feel like, you can use that. So whichever you feel comfortable, whichever you feel is the best suited for a particular kind of problem, you can use that kind of if over here. So are you clear with all 4 types of ifs? Okay, let's try one simple program And after that, I'll be telling you something interesting. That is how random function works in Python. Because if you need to make some games, be it very small game also, you need that values should be generated randomly. User is not inputting. You as a programmer are not giving that value, but that is generated randomly by the system. Like if I want to someday make Ludo in Python. So if you want to make Ludo in Python, you need to throw the dice and you need to see that what the dice shows. And that has to be a random value. So the day would come soon when we'll be making Ludo here, but today we'll be making some simpler applications with the help of random. So we'll do random, but before we do random, we're going to do one program. And that program is you have to input 3 sides of a triangle. So you have to take sides of a triangle and you need to check if that triangle is equilateral, isosceles or scalar. So if all 3 sides are equal, you will print that the triangle is equilateral. If any 2 sides are equal, then it is isosceles. And if none of the sides are equal, it is scalar. Right? So go ahead. We've missed colon in the condition. And there should not be a space between side and 3. That's good.
Is this a sign for not equal?
It's exclamation mark and equal to sign.
Not equal.
Yeah. exclamation sign, and equal. This is not equal. Yeah. See, if you are, what are you trying to use? Are you trying to use nested if else?
Yes.
But if all are equal, then I should not check if they are not equal. So it won't be nested. You can try elif if you want.
Side 1 is equal to side.
And side 1 is equal to side 3, so it's equilateral.
Yeah.
If it's not, then you should check if it's scalar. So you should write elif. That if the first condition is false, then I should check if it is scalar. Because if the first one is true, we know that it's an equilateral triangle and we don't need to check anything further, right? And for the third one, your condition is right if side 1 is equal to side 2 or side 2 is equal to side 3, but you don't need any condition now. Because we know it's not an equilateral. We know it's not scalar. So obviously it will be isosceles. So in the third one, you can just write else and print a message that triangle is isosceles. Because there are only 3 possibilities and we have already checked for 2. If those 2 are false, then it's obvious that the result has to be isosceles. And you are supposed to put a colon here and a colon after else. So colons are very important in Python. Yeah, that's fine.
But here, I think we'll have to add another condition that
Yeah, side 1 and side 3 are not equal.
Now let's learn and see it.
So
works,
yeah, so that's how we can use basic if else. So you used elif ladder over here, so it's up to you. As I told you, it's your decision that which one you want to use. Okay, now let's start with the random thing. So we'll see that how random function is used. Now you will get to know one more thing in Python once we use the random function, and that is using the libraries. Now we are using the commands till now which are already defined in the default Python library. For that you don't have to include anything extra. But random function is not in the default libraries. So if you want to use random, you have to write this line on the top, which is import random. So there are many libraries like this which we would be using in Python coding, which are not added by default, but you can add them to the program and then you can call the functions defined in those libraries, right? So import means add this to your program. Now I have to generate a random number. So how do we generate that? We write num is equal to random. There are two ways of getting a random number. One is you write num is equal to random dot random. So this random dot random. So when I write this, it is going to generate any random number between 0 to 1. So any random number will be generated between 0 to 1, right? And it would be in points. So obviously it can give you 0.5, 0.75, 0.3, whatever. But it would be any number. So 0.3958 like you're getting. If I run this again, I'll be getting a different number. If I run this again, I'll be getting a different number. So you keep running and you will be getting a different number over here. Now, if I want that it should give me a number from 0 to 10, so what can we do? We can multiply this with 10. So the minimum value you get is a 0. The maximum value you get is a 1. So if I multiply it with 10, that means the minimum value I'll be getting is 0 and the maximum I'll be getting is 10. So if I run this program now, I'll be getting values like this: 4, 8, 9. Yeah.
Integer.
So not integer because you still have them in points, but it's outside the range of 0 to 1. It's between 0 to 10 now. If you want integers, then I have another function for that, and that function is random dot randint. This one. So here we have to pass two numbers. Like I want a random number from 1 to 6. And then I run this program. So I get 5, I run it again, I get 6, I get 2, I get 3, I get 4, 2, 6, anything. So you keep getting random numbers from this minimum to maximum range where both the values are inclusive. So it can give you 1, it can give you 2, it can give you 6, it can give you any number. So that is how randint works. So even as a programmer, I don't know what number will be generated. The user doesn't know what number is being generated. So that is randint. Okay. Now it depends that where are we going to use it. So it could be different type of applications. Like what I want to do is I want to make a mathematical quiz. Right. I want that there should be one question only. I'm not doing like for multiple questions right now. But my question would be like this, that I should generate two numbers randomly. Then out of plus, minus, multiply, divide, I will generate one operation randomly. Even I don't know what the question is going to come on the screen. So if the random number generated is 1, I should ask the user to add the numbers. If the random number generated is 2, I should ask the user to subtract the numbers. 3, multiply, 4, divide, something like that. So how am I going to do that? So first of all, I need two random numbers on which I have to operate. So I take random 1 and I want that the random number should be within the range of 1 to 20. Same way, I generate another random number which would again be from 1 to 20, and then I have to take the operation, and operation could be one of the 4. So I write random dot randint 1, 4.
What is this? Random 1 to 4. This will only give a number.
This will give only a number between 1 to 4, right? So it will give just one number from 1 to 4. Now what I have to do, I have to show the message to the user that add then the two numbers, or multiply then the two numbers. But what I have to show, add, multiply, divide, subtract, that depends on the number which I have got in operation. There are other ways to do that in Python as well, but right now, since we are just beginners and we have just learned how to use if, so I'm going to do it with if. Later you will be doing it with list and all, but that will make the code much shorter. But right now you don't know what lists are there in Python, so we're going to do it with if else. So how? Like I take expected, or you can say result, just write the result. So result I have taken, which is initially 0, but I would calculate it depending upon the condition. So I check if operation is equal to 1. So if operation is equal to 1, we think that it is multiply. So what I write print multiply, comma, num1 and num2. I want to show this message, and in result I'm already storing their product. I don't know what these two numbers are, but I'm already storing their product. Same way, I'm checking if operation is equal to 2, then I have to say divide. So I can write divide, and over here I put a slash. Then elif operation is equal to 3, then I have to add, and I put plus over here, and else I don't have to check anything, and I give the last one, which is subtract. So subtract is minus, and yeah, that is it. And now we're going to ask for the answer. So I ask like answer is equal to int input enter your answer. So I ask for the answer, and then I have to check.
Why writing it input enter answer should come automatically?
No, answer is automatically in result, but we are asking the user for the answer. So we have calculated the answer of our own in result, because we ourselves don't know the numbers. So we don't know what numbers are, what is the result of the calculation. So we have calculated the result of the calculation, and then we are taking a value from the user as answer. And now I'll compare if the calculated result is equal to the answer given by the user. So if my calculated result is equal to the answer given by the user, that means user has given the correct answer. So you can print like, wow, you gave correct answer, else sorry, your answer is incorrect or wrong, whatever, right? So we give it like this. Now if I'm going to execute this program, it will say multiply 1 and 6. Now we didn't know that the numbers are going to be 1 and 6, nor does the user know. So user has to enter the answer. So I enter 6, so it is correct answer. If I run it again, it will say multiply 8 and 5. So the operation is random, the numbers are random. So it's divide 12 and 11. If I enter 1, so get sorry, your answer is wrong, because that would be in points. So since it would be in points, so we should take float over here, because it's better to compare with float, since your answer could be a floating point value. So keep running and you will getting a different number every time. So if it's 5, let's run. So that is how
It's a
random.
small game,
Yeah, it's a very small game. We haven't do a concept called looping till now. If you do that, right now you have to run it again and again to get different questions. With the help of looping, I can make it work for 10 times if there are 10 questions, and we can at the end show the score. Like, okay, out of 10 questions, your score is this much. So we'll be doing that once. We'll do loops, then we'll modify this game for that. But just go through this once and just ask me if you have anything in your mind to ask. And once we're done with this, I'll tell you what you should make next. So just check it out. If you get any kind of doubt, any kind of question, just ask.
What was the need here to write result is equal to 0 in the initial thing? Why do you write this result is equal to 0?
Even if you don't write, it's okay. I just initialized so that we know that we are using this variable for result. But if you don't do it, then also it's fine. Yeah, are you clear with it?
Okay.
Okay. So have you heard of that game called Lucky 7? Where we have two dice and we have to throw the two dice, and if the sum of the numbers on the two dice is equal to 7, then you win a bumper prize. Otherwise, you don't win a bumper prize. It's just that, not a very big thing. So what you have to do is you have to assume that you have two dice with you, and the user is going to roll that dice. So you can make your program like this, that when we run the code, there should be a message on the screen saying, if you are ready to roll the dice, enter yes or press a key, anything like that. So you can give a message like press enter if you are ready to roll the dice. So when the person press enters, after that you should show the dice values, like dice 1 face says whatever number, dice 2 face says this number, and if the sum of the faces is 7, then you have to show a message, congrats, you win the bumper prize. Else you have to show like, okay, you didn't get the bumper prize. You want to try this?
Okay. Yeah. इसका?
Okay, Deepak, you can take your time. I guess you've already done it. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So if we run it now, is this the same file?
No, it's a new one. Run from here.
So if we run this,
Lucky sir. It's not showing. I think
yeah,
it's
we are not showing the message, but it's okay. It will not show always that you won. It comes sorry, try again as well. Very good. So that is about today's class. I hope you all understood these concepts. So try this of your own, and we'll see you tomorrow at 5:30 again for doing the next topic.